Trump did it. Haven't seen you in years. I'm Purple Beast Jose. Oh my gosh, yeah, dude. Of course I remember you, bro. Yo, Jose, my man. Thanks for stopping in. Dude, good to see you. Yeah, this is historic. This is the most unbelievable situation. This is the most unbelievable thing anybody's ever heard of. Like, this is nuts, dude. This is absolutely nuts.
Much of the country in Caracas, as well as those other areas that were hit by numerous strikes, will be eerily quiet as people are taking in this incredibly shocking news. There'll be a sense of uncertainty, of fear, I'm sure, among many Venezuelans, regardless if they were in favor of Nicolas Maduro or against him. We understand, according to Padrino Lopez, the defense minister, that there will be a deployment of all armed forces, that Venezuelan government are taking a very aggressive stance to this and saying that they will not back down, that they will defend Venezuela at all costs.
Let's go, Eric. What's up, Eric? What a W. Oh, I know, Eric. This is one of the top W's of my life. I mean, this is truly one of the most amazing things ever. What Trump has accomplished here in Venezuela, arresting the president Maduro, this is going to go down as one of the biggest plays in international relations in decades. I really feel that way.
In Caracas, there'll be no civilian casualties or deaths reported, although I'm sure more details of this damage.
Zero civilian deaths. Zero civilian deaths.
Infrastructure, the so-called target of these strikes, that will all come to light very shortly. But for now, people will be trying to make sense of this.
Meta Sigma, what's up?
Unnerving situation.
Oh, yeah.
It's come as a shock. Nobody was expecting this, be that in the country or many Venezuelans, nearly 8 million outside. But many people will be trying to get in contact with loved ones,
YouTube
friends,
chat.
relatives across the country. And
What up, Eric Smith?
Happening and make sense of
yes, he really did. Yes. He is. Trump is the best president ever. Yep.
For Venezuelans.
Absolutely, Eric. Absolutely, Eric. Yeah, Trump is going down as the best president ever.
Who's an American journalist and investigative reporter and also staff writer for The New Yorker. Thanks for being with us, John. What's the reaction from within the US?
Well, the initial reaction, as you know, even in the eastern seaboard of the U.S., most people are still asleep. But so it's been muted. But Donald Trump and his
most people are still asleep, but we're not. On the Lecture Fan channel, we're not sleeping on this one.
Social account, Donald Trump announced the capture of Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, and of his wife.
Dude, here's the crazy thing, okay? Here's the absolutely nuts thing about this whole situation, about this Venezuela situation, about Trump capturing president. Here's what's insane. Dude, China was there visiting Maduro when this happened. Chinese officials, like 5 or 6 high-ranking Chinese officials, had just gotten into Venezuela, and they had just posted social media pictures yesterday of these Chinese officials meeting with President Maduro, and that's when Trump goes in and arrests Maduro. That sends a message to China. That tells me this is about China. This is a big deal.
International community, mainly by countries that you would expect to be critical of the US, for example, Russia and Cuba. What do you think it's going to play out as domestically when it comes to
the Ayatollah is
next, President Trump's political position?
Trump easily best ever, totally meta.
Well,
yeah.
Let's see what happens. This is
America first. Amen, Jose. It is.
It seems as if,
dude, and that's the other thing that I love about this too is I'm so sick of all of these people that claim isolationism is America first and never using the U.S. military as America first, and all these isolationists amongst the Trump supporters claiming they're America. No, this is America first. Trump is not afraid to use the U.S. military, and you use it smartly, and nobody dies. That's the amazing thing. Good job, Trump.
Paramilitary tranche. So, for months, as this is built up, these men, as well as Maduro, have claimed that there would be a national defense, which includes regular and...
I'm going to throw up these clips really quick.
It seems as if...
Dude, and that's the other thing that I love about this, too, is I'm so sick of all of these people that claim isolationism is America first and never using the U.S. military as America first, and all these isolationists amongst the Trump supporters claiming they're America. No, this is America first. Trump is not afraid to use the U.S. military, and you use it smartly and no. I just want to get a couple of clips up here of me talking about this onto YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. Get my initial thoughts up there, you know. China was there visiting Maduro when this happened. Chinese officials, like 5 or 6 top high-ranking Chinese officials, had just gotten into Venezuela, and they had just posted social media pictures yesterday of these Chinese officials meeting with President Maduro, and that's when Trump goes in and arrests Maduro. Yeah, that's a good clip. That's the main point, dude. I can't believe Chinese officials were there visiting. I want to read more about that. I've seen that a couple of different places. Let's go, Eric. What's up, Eric? What a W. What a W. Oh, I know, Eric. This is one of the top W's of my life. I mean, this is truly one of the most amazing things ever. What Trump has accomplished here in Venezuela.
Action and opprobrium, because it breaks with the idea of a world order that was constructed after World War II, in which rule of law was obeyed. Now, there are equally many people who regard Maduro as having gone beyond the pale, and that the only way to get him out was by force. The Nobel Peace Prize winner, Maria.
Let's see what ABC, I think, look at this. Check this out, guys. Oh, this is hilarious. AP has up a live image of Caracas. Looks like the sun's just starting to come up there in Caracas. It's 3:55 a.m. here. Wow. Where are the explosions? I'm just kidding. But that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. We could we'll keep up view of Caracas up. We'll keep the view of Caracas up. I mean, we don't need to. There's not going to be any more explosions or anything like that. I thought oh, here's NBC News is streaming. Oh, Sky News is streaming. I thought I saw ABC News was streaming.
Plausible, but then it went off the table. The Americans weren't interested in what Maduro said he wanted as price for stepping down. So I think that this, as a precipitate action to get rid of Maduro, apparently, as far as we can tell,
mostly peaceful, Meta Sigma.
That has been
mostly peaceful.
Would keep that oil, that tanker.
It's been mostly peaceful.
To the United States, specifically to Texas. Keir Simmons is our chief international correspondent. Condemnable.
Dude, and that's the other thing, too, is like I read on Wall Street Journal that there was a Chinese-owned like super tanker, oil tanker that was headed towards Venezuela to get oil to go to China that's been taking oil to China for the last 5 years, and that thing turned around. It's like, dude, this is mostly about the fact that Chinese officials had just arrived to visit Maduro when this happened, and the fact that the Chinese super tankers, oil tankers, are turning around in the middle of the ocean now. Like, that proves that Trump is cutting off China from Venezuelan oil, which is a wonderful thing. Wonderful, wonderful thing.
Global hotspot, which is Russia as well.
Yeah, I've been reading that statement too, Peter, and I've been reflecting that this is why.
It's a bad day to be a commie. Yes, it is. Yeah. Yo, Bahuntami. What's up, Bahuntami? All right, so we got Jose, we got Meta Sigma, we got Bahuntami, we got Eric. Thank you guys so much for being here. Foreign policy has been amazing. Just needs to ramp up the Doge Oh, I know. But, yeah, the foreign policy is off the charts. You think the way the media gag talks about stuff that everything would be on fire. Oh, I know, right? Insane intel to get Maduro. Oh, I know, Jose. Oh, I know. It's like, holy crap, dude. That's insane to just go in and then arrest the president of another country, like no deaths, no civilian casualties. Like, I can't wait to learn about how this happened, dude. This is insane.
Region, Mr. Trump, let me help you to solve that. Sounds familiar, and it is therefore significant because it gives the Russians the ability to kind of say, well, look, you see, this happens everywhere, and we help each other to solve it. So you can see how there are multiple dimensions to this, and the implications and the impact of it, we will only know in the months ahead. But there's another aspect to this too, Peter, and I think it's really fascinating. And
That was the other crazy thing, Eric, that I read on Wall Street Journal. I read on Wall Street Journal that at the military headquarters in Caracas, like Fort Tryon or something like that, it said that it was total chaos, that it was electricity was gone, and that there were dozens and dozens of vehicles fleeing and escaping and people running and escaping. So like at the top military headquarters in Venezuela, people are like running and escaping from the place. And that was the like short little report update from Wall Street Journal. Like, can you believe that? Oh, cool. Look at those pictures of those American helis flying over Venezuela.
Whether
Look
it
at
really
that.
works, and there is plenty of history to suggest that it does not, and then there are some examples of moments when it has made a difference. And all of this is happening while there are protests in Iran, effectively looking to overthrow the regime there. And those protests are the most significant since some years ago.
Yo, Boss Nerd. What's up, Boss Nerd? Welcome to the stream. They captured him because he was running drugs and he was under criminal indictment in the United States. And the United States law enforcement was going in to execute a search warrant to arrest him, to have him face criminal charges in the United States. And the U.S. military was there to assist.
And there is no doubt of this significance.
You're right, Keir. In the president's victory speech upon winning the last election, he said, "I'm not going to start wars. I'm going to stop wars." We're now hearing some of the criticism coming in from some of the...
No, Jose, that's the question. Who's going to take power? We don't know. It sounded to me like the opposition is trying to take power. That's what I saw on Twitter. Like the opposition is going to try to take power in Venezuela, not necessarily just continue the same government.
Regime change war in Latin America based on absurd rationales about drug trafficking, no explanation of goals, and counter to everything Trump promised, campaigning, and we're not even a full year into Trump's term. You can...
Oh, give me a break.
And like them, but that's not the same as saying that there is an opposition really ready to go. Maria Machado says there is. She says that the opposition are ready to take over as and when. Well, if so, then this is their opportunity. But how that is implemented in the next few hours will be critical, and it comes back full circle to what the army does. So Vladimir Lopez, the Minister of Defense, and possibly Delcy Rodriguez, the Vice President, if he is still Vice President. In theory, he still is. We'll see if he is by the end of the day. But Lopez and Rodriguez are probably the two most important people in Venezuela for the next 24 hours when we try to gauge what reaction there might be on the streets.
Right, okay, well, we'll keep an eye clearly on them. Michael, for now, thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, see, I've read all of these. There was like 20, they had like 20 updates. Yeah, 2 hours ago. All right, so we'll start here. Like I started on most of these updates a while ago. I've read a lot of already these, but 2 hours ago, U.S. officials confirm attack. Venezuelan ally Cuba says U.S. strikes amount to state terrorism. Hawaii senator denounces the attack. Can you imagine, dude? Senator Brian Schatz, Democrat, Hawaii, some senator like condemning the arrest of Maduro on drug trafficking charges. Executed perfectly, no human deaths, like no civilian deaths, no U.S. military deaths, no U.S. law enforcement deaths, and we just captured one of the worst and most wanted people on the planet, and this guy's condemning it. What the heck is wrong with these Democrats? Parts of Caracas are without power. Cell phone services are interrupted. U.S. strikes at several Venezuelan military facilities and airport areas, according to residents and the Venezuelan government. The attacks, which Venezuelan authorities described as a serious military aggression perpetrated by the U.S., targeted areas around Caracas's Fort Tryon, where many government officials reside, the mountain barracks where the country's late socialist leader is buried. And did you see that? They blew up Hugo Chavez's tomb. They like attacked and blew up wherever the Hugo Chavez memorial or mausoleum, or wherever the heck it is that they have there. The way that these weird commies always keep the dead bodies of their leaders around, and they bomb that for Hugo Chavez. Should be the true winner, the opposition, right? I agree. I'm cheering for U.S., but they need like a dark MAGA guy next election. I watch the news like Tim Wall's still free. The people in Epstein, Ilhan Omar. Oh, I know, right? Like, how is Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar and the rest of them not being arrested already? Great point. Want to check BBC Take? Also on the front page is another Eat the Bug story. Oh, gosh. I'm not. I was only paying attention to. Yeah, this is the BBC Take. They still got this guy on.
For the average citizen who inevitably
I'm gonna read chat. I'm gonna read chat.
Spectators in these huge.
Yeah, Jose. Some people were saying that this was actually like a planned operation. Like this was Maduro's way of like voluntarily agreeing to come out. Like a lot of people are saying like Maduro has a deal with the U.S. already where he agreed to get taken and he's gonna do a deal or whatever. I have no idea if that's true. Obviously, nobody does.
Buys Trump, and the other half, at least of the electorate, voted for.
I would assume not, though.
But there's also a good many people in Venezuela who spent 25 years, in one way or another, invested in their relationship to this so-called Bolivarian regime, which began with Hugo Chavez, the late strongman, and followed by his successor Maduro, and a very ideological kind of quasi-revolutionary ferment. So for some, that dream will have died, and for others, it will be the only thing they can cling to. So I think it will be messy. I don't see any way around this. When I said that Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president, is the foreseeable next person, I don't see her as sitting there for long. I think the U.S. is determined to see Maria Corina Machado, the exiled opposition leader and Nobel Peace Prize winner, as the president of the country. And I'm sure they're determined to see her fulfill that role. How messy it will be with the actions of Maduro's loyalists, however, over the next days, weeks, is an open guess. War has a way of being, it's like a gene that,
This isn't war, dude. We arrested, like, who is this guy? This isn't war. Like, we went in and we arrested the president. Like, there's no war going on. Give me a break, bro. I'm going to make a couple of... When did we take out Noriega? I can't remember. U.S. needs a new law. People are getting brainwashed or idiotic for believing in fake news like CNN, the way they changed the narrative towards Nick Shirley. Is there a law against fake news? No, there's not. The vice president's safe. Defense minister says regime won't give in to U.S. pressure. Iran condemns. Venezuelan VP calls on U.S. to prove Maduro is alive. Tankers divert from Venezuela. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. One tanker headed toward Venezuela to pick up crude is owned by Chinese owners. Chinese owned. Turned around. In 2020, U.S. authorities charged Venezuelan President Maduro and senior government officials with running cocaine trafficking enterprise after a decade-long investigation. In an indictment filed in Manhattan federal court, prosecutors accused Maduro of being a leader of a drug trafficking network called the Cartel de los Soles and of helping to move large shipments of cocaine toward the U.S. Maduro managed and protected the network as he rose through the ranks of the country's government. He rejected the U.S. charges. He was involved in drug trafficking, calling them dirty, false accusations. Let there be no doubt Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker in the U.S. He's a fugitive of American justice. Rubio said in September. Wow, that's all the latest updates there are. Would have thought there would have been more. All right, let me make a few clips here.
Regard Maduro as having gone beyond the pale, and that the only way to get him out was by force. The Nobel Peace Prize winner, Maria.
Let's see what ABC, I think, look at this. Check this out, guys. Oh, this is... Guys. Look at this. Check this out, guys. Oh, this is hilarious. AP has up a live image of Caracas. Looks like the sun's just starting to come up there in Caracas. It's 3:55 a.m. here. Venezuela to get oil to go to China that's been taking oil to China for the last 5 years, and that thing turned around. It's like, dude, this is mostly about the fact that Chinese officials had just arrived to visit Maduro when this happened, and the fact that the Chinese super tankers, oil tankers, are turning around in the middle of the ocean now. Like, that proves that Trump is cutting off China from. Get them clips up. Get them clips up. Get them clips. Sorry, guys. Let me just do this really quick. I only got a couple of these to do. Foreign policy has been amazing. Just needs to ramp up the Doge Oh, I know. But, yeah, the foreign policy is off the charts. You think the way the media gag talks about stuff that everything would be on fire? Oh, I know, right? Insane intel to get Maduro. Oh, I know, Jose. Oh, I know. It's like, holy crap, dude. And amazing, just needs to ramp up the Doge Seems like these are like longer now. Just needs to ramp up the Doge. They must have changed something about these clips. Caracas, like Fort Tryon or something like that. It said that it was total chaos, that it was electricity was gone, and that there were dozens and dozens of vehicles fleeing and escaping, and people running and escaping. So, like, at the top military headquarters in Venezuela, people are like running and escaping from the place. And that was the like short little report update from Wall Street Journal. Like, can you believe that? Oh, cool! Look at those pictures of those American helis flying over Venezuela. Look at that.
In Iran, effectively looking to overthrow the regime there. And those protests are the most significant since some years ago.
Yo, Boss Nerd. What's up, Boss Nerd? Welcome to the stream. They captured him because he was... What's up, Boss Nerd? Welcome to the stream. They captured him because he was running drugs and he was under criminal indictment in the United States, and the United States law enforcement was going in to execute a search warrant to arrest him, to have him face criminal charges in the United States, and the U.S. All right. Looks like three more. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Boom. That's Democrat Hawaii. Some senator like condemning the arrest of Maduro on drug trafficking charges, executed perfectly. No human deaths, like no civilian deaths, no U.S. military deaths, no U.S. law enforcement deaths, and we just captured one of the worst and most wanted people on the planet. Government officials reside, the mountain barracks where the country's late socialist leader is buried. Did you see that? They blew up Hugo Chavez's tomb. They like attacked and blew up wherever the Hugo Chavez memorial or mausoleum, or whatever the heck it is that they have there. The way they do is weird. All right, one more. Just about done here. What's up, boys? And then we'll check out these government officials reside, the mountain barracks where the country's we'll check out the latest news.
How messy it will be with the actions of Maduro's loyalists, however, over the next days, weeks, is an open guess. War has a way of being. It's like a.
The hell is this? This isn't war, dude. We arrested, like, who's this guy? This isn't war. Like, we went in and we arrested the president. Like, there's no war going on. Give me a break, bro.
Roll. How messy it will be with the actions of Maduro's loyalists, however, over the next days, weeks, is an open guess.
war has a way of being, it's like a gene that,
This isn't war, dude. We arrested, like, who's this guy? This isn't war. Like, we went in and we arrested the president. Like, there's no war going on. Give me a break, bro.
Roll. Roll.
All right.
How messy it will be.
Because they also know that Maduro gave specific instructions to armed civilians to go and catch and get anyone who would celebrate or oppose him. So I think people are being very, very cautious, and they're trying to rest. They're trying to understand what happened. It is also the shock of the...
Going after the Mexican cartels is not going to be this easy. No, it's not. That's a good point. But we got to go after the Mexican cartels, too, just as hard.
For 200 years, we haven't had this kind of...
Meta, I agree about Shats.
So people don't really know how to react. They're trying to accommodate to what they just experienced.
Yes, completely understandable, Anna. The nation has checked.
Oh, we got it. We got it 6 minutes ago. We got an update from Wall Street Journal. We got an update. What we know about 6 minutes ago. Update. What we know about U.S. military action in Venezuela. Venezuelan forces patrol the streets of Caracas after the U.S. attack. That doesn't look safe, the way they're doing that. Okay. The U.S. captured and extracted Venezuelan President Maduro and his wife in a military law enforcement operation early Saturday. Maduro's capture comes after months of U.S. pressure on his regime, including the seizure of oil tankers off Venezuela's coast, aerial attacks on drug smuggling boats, and a CIA strike inside the country. The Venezuelan vice president said she didn't know where Maduro was and called on the U.S. to prove he was alive. Explosions had rocked Caracas and other locations in the early hours of Saturday morning. Venezuela called the attack an act of U.S. military aggression. Blah, blah, blah. Venezuela ordered a general mobilization of all the country's social and political forces to counter what it said was an imperialist attack. Residents around the Miraflores presidential palace in downtown Caracas reported a heavy military presence on the streets and power outages. Venezuela earlier accused the U.S. of setting out to seize its strategic resources, particularly oil and mineral. All right.
They say, though, that La Guaira port, we've seen the explosions throughout the last few hours on social media, which are purported to have taken place there, has been severely damaged by the U.S. attacks. The port of La Guaira has been severely damaged. This is according to the Venezuelan state.
He made it public, and he says he spoke to Marco Rubio. He said that the strikes we saw overnight were deployed to protect and defend those executing this arrest warrant. As he says, Maduro was arrested, according to Rubio, by U.S. personnel to stand trial on criminal charges in the United States, presumably based on that indictment that dates back to March of 2020. I want to get to Colonel Steve Warren, our NBC News military analyst, who's been watching this with me as well. And Colonel, I'm struck by a couple of things. One, by what we have witnessed this morning, the dramatic and historic developments taking place, and two, by where this fits into history. It was on this day, January 3rd of 1990, that Panama's General Manuel Noriega, after holding up for 10 days in the Vatican embassy, I think it was, in Panama City, surrendered to U.S. military troops to face charges of drug trafficking as well. 36 years to the day since that took place. And now, in a lot of different ways, history repeats itself. The question is, what does history look like from here? What does the U.S. do about it in these days and weeks ahead? But specific to what has happened in these overnight hours, talk to us about those challenges that the American Special Forces would have faced in this capture operation. And of course, what all would agree is good news is that at least at this point, it appears that there were no casualties on the U.S. side, at least those that we have learned about in the carrying out of this action.
Well, it's really good news that up till now we've received no reports of American casualties, and that's something we're grateful and thankful for. It's an extraordinary operation. Operations like this are much more complex, I think, than they look. And that's what great professionals do. They make it look easy. And these are really the world's most elite commandos, the Tier 1 Special Operations Forces out of the Joint Special Operations Command, often called JSOC. We don't know if this was Delta Force or SEAL Team 6, so we can refer to it simply as the Tier 1 Special Forces Operations. Exceptional mission supported by air defense suppression, special forces operators, and then, of course, some level of law enforcement who also participated in this arrest. So it's an exceptional mission, so many complications. Courtney Kube, our Pentagon correspondent, touched on some of the requirements to shape the battlefield ahead of penetrating into the target area with the forces that would actually conduct the arrest. I think some of these explosions that we're seeing in various spots, I think we have to keep in mind that while we wanted to suppress the enemy's air defense capabilities, what we also want to do is...
Oh, that's a great point, Jose. Yeah, that's a fantastic point, Jose. Good point.
These strikes would have been the ability for the Venezuelan forces to communicate with each other, so some sort of communication node, and then the ability for the Venezuelan forces to respond. So if there are Venezuelan quick reaction forces, they might well have been targeted. If there were Venezuelan police who could potentially respond, they might well have been targeted. So I think that's what we're looking at. Normally we suppress air defense. We isolate the target area, which is what I was just talking about, cut off any routes in that responders can use. Then we secure the area, so that's the most immediate area, the building or the car or wherever Maduro was at the time. That's that close-in security, just really a circle around that spot that we were trying to conduct the arrest, and then the exfiltration.
Colonel Warren, just for a better understanding of this, and obviously there's a lot to be determined, whether this was some form of a negotiated exit, how all of this played out. It appears by the president's language that this was, in effect, a capture operation, that this was not agreed to by Maduro, but we'll wait to see more details about that. Would there be, in a situation like this, any form of communication between the U.S. forces there and any of the regime, the leadership on the ground as this is taking place, or do they just, is it just a whirlwind, they whisk in and then depart?
Either one is possible. It would make sense to try to establish some sort of communications with the security forces there and tell them, hey, listen, don't make a mistake you'll regret, right? That would make sense. But I have to tell you, the way this operation was conducted, and given our history with the Venezuelans, my instinct is this was probably, as you described, really sort of a surprise whirlwind assault. If it were negotiated, there seems to be a lot of fire and flame and explosions for a negotiation to me. So I feel like this one, my instinct tells me that this one is probably much more of a surprise attack, a very precise shock attack or raid. Really, it's more doctrinally we'd call this a raid because you're just in and out. But I think that's probably what we're looking at here.
And it does raise real questions about if this was not a negotiated exit, how the U.S. knew exactly where Nicolas Maduro and in this case his wife were at the time, specifically where they were collected from, where they were picked up from. Again, among the questions that we're going to be asking, just 6:20 in the morning, and it feels like we are well into 2026. This is a storyline and an operation that is going to drive a lot of the conversation in Washington, around the country, and around not just the Western Hemisphere, but the world for the foreseeable future. Colonel Steve Warren, thank you so much to you. My colleague Julie Sirkin is on the ground for us in West Palm Beach this morning. She has been traveling with the president, has been there for much of this holiday break for him. But it's clear that in between some of the festivities are seeing him around Christmas and New Year's, that the president, who was took photographs yesterday with Stephen Miller, Marco Rubio, among others, has been privately very focused on this right now. Julie, we know that news conference will take place at 11 o'clock this morning, a matter of hours from now. Pull back the curtain for us on what we have heard from the president and how we've sort of been building up to this moment.
Well, he's been building up to this moment, Peter, in the way that Richard and Keir and Courtney have laid out over the last 6 months, ramping up pressure, his cabinet ramping up military pressure in the seizure of those oil tankers. This week, a couple of days ago, we saw economic sanctions on that oil taking place by the administration, different boat seizures as well that we've been tracking closely, even during the holiday break. And just to peel back the curtain even further and put my Capitol Hill hat on, when I covered Marco Rubio as a senator, Venezuela was a top focus of his even then. He had often spoken out against Nicolas Maduro. He had been very present, tip of the spear on matters when he was a senator, when he was in Congress, trying to make sure that the U.S. had an aggressive policy and posture on rooting out the narco state, as he called it there in Venezuela, and then now transitioning to Secretary of State. When I talked to officials close to him and close to the administration, this has been...
Yeah, Rubio is correct. Rubio's so good. Rubio is so good. Rubio's been spot on with everything. And that's the point. Maduro's not the president. He's literally the leader of a cartel gang, cocaine trafficking gang that's taken over control of the government. It's like he didn't win the illegitimate election. Like, he has no legitimacy. He doesn't have the backing of the people behind him. Like, get out, Maduro.
Perhaps on limiting the flow of drugs that we've seen the administration use as their excuses, their cudgel.
Rubio can't wait to go to Cuba. Get all of the communists out of Latin America, as far as I'm concerned, Jose. Get all the commies out of Latin America.
They cannot make that kind of agreement with him. And that brings us to, in many ways, this moment that we're seeing now. And when you heard from Courtney laying out what she called those wonky questions, what we have called the right questions, when you look at what Congress is going to be asking, the very basics of this is that Article 1 gives Congress the authority, the sole authority to conduct, to declare war, to have that power, the War Powers Act that you heard Mike Lee there, the Republican, who, by the way, is a constitutional lawyer himself. He's often been concerned about these matters. And then Article 2 gives the president the power to act if there is a direct or imminent threat, which is what we've heard apparently from Mike Lee as he laid out the justification after he heard from Marco Rubio. So where does this go from here? I was struck, Peter, as well a couple of weeks ago when Congress received their briefing from administration officials. Pete Hegseth was there, the Secretary of Defense, Marco Rubio was there, and the one question that...
She just totally explained that the U.S.'s legal justification for this totally incorrectly there.
Closed doors. What does this look like from Maduro? You are going after these oil tankers. You are intercepting these drug boats that you say are carrying drugs that could harm the American people. But what about Nicolas Maduro? And it is even in that room a couple of weeks ago, Peter, that lawmakers in a classified setting couldn't get answers. Lindsey Graham told me, for example, after that briefing, Peter, that he asked point blank, is it regime change that you are pursuing? Do you want to take Maduro down? To be clear, Graham and other Republicans thought that the administration should take this step, but it is not an answer, Peter, that they received in that room. And now, as Congress heads back to Washington after this holiday break, that is the question that Democrats, that Republicans are going to be asking. But so far, for most Republicans...
I 100% agree, Jose. Latin America is the United States' backyard. It's very, very close to us. It directly impacts us very, very easily. We cannot allow any of these countries in North, South, Central America to become communist, to become dictatorships, to be allies with Russia and China and Iran and North Korea. We can't allow them to become narco states where they're dealing drugs and putting drugs in the United States. We can't allow them to not cooperate with us on immigration controls. This is fantastic move by President Trump here to arrest Maduro, president of Venezuela, alleged president, illegitimate president.
Concern, his focus on Venezuela, the illegitimate leader, as the president describes it, focuses on Maduro's drug trafficking, his role in that effort. But obviously, there has also been criticism that a matter of weeks ago, just over a month ago, the president pardoned the former Honduran president, Juan Orlando Hernandez, who had been convicted on drug trafficking charges. So you can see, even at this early morning hour, how some of the criticism is developing, questions about the authority under which the president was acting, questions about what the president's critics, many of them Democrats, view as sort of a disconnect in terms of the efforts taking place. But the president is touting the success of what has happened as we begin a new dawn and truly a new day in that country of Venezuela. The president speaking, as you noted, to the New York Times early this morning, saying, among other things, in a quick phone conversation that the Times reports that, quote, a lot of good planning and a lot of great troops and great people were involved in this. He says it was a brilliant operation. Actually, we will hear from him again shortly. It obviously comes with a ripple effect. The fallout not unique to Venezuela, but to the region around it as well. We are now hearing from the Colombian president in neighboring Colombia, President Petro there, saying that its forces will be deployed to the Venezuelan border and that they are preparing for refugees. This was in the form of a post. So, you know, as we have talked about, one of our experts overnight telling us that as many as 8 million Venezuelans have fled that country over the course of the last series of years amid their concerns about the authoritarian government, concerns about inflation, and broad human rights concerns that have existed there as well. We are, though, hearing from the Venezuelan regime, or members of what now appears to be the decapitated regime, the country's vice president this morning on state-run television saying after the President Trump's announcement that Nicolas Maduro's location remained unknown to her and asked that President Trump provide proof of life. It's a good question. We do not know where Maduro is at this time. We do know, according to lawmakers that have spoken to Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, that he is expected to face justice, as they describe it, for criminal charges against him. Good morning to you. It is approaching 6:30 in the morning on the East Coast here. And again, we are watching a historic and developing situation taking place in Venezuela, one that the government there describes as an extremely serious act of military aggression. The president saying,
oh, check it out. Check it out. Wall Street's got a journal. Wall Street Journal's got an update, guys. Wall Street Journal's got an update 6 minutes ago. 6 minutes ago, Venezuelan operation is latest in long history of U.S. intervention in Latin America. Trump administration's actions in Venezuela mark the latest in a long line of U.S. interventions in Latin America and the Caribbean. In '89, the U.S. invaded Panama after its former ally, General Manuel Noriega, stole an election and was later indicted on drug charges. He was arrested and taken to the U.S., where he was found guilty of drug trafficking. Alarm about Cuban and Soviet expansion led the U.S. to intervene in Grenada after the tiny Caribbean island's Marxist Prime Minister, Maurice Bishop, and other officials were executed following an internal coup in 1983. Between 81 and 90, the U.S.-backed Contra rebels in their fight against Nicaragua's Marxist Sandinista government. The war ended after the Sandinistas lost the 1990 presidential election. Boom! The U.S. getting it done. Oh, man. Yo, that was not Jam. What's up? What's the reasons for the attacks, though? Safety of U.S. law enforcement. Don't they have a bunch of Russian jets? They allegedly, that was not Jam. Welcome to the Lecture Fan Twitch stream. Thanks for stopping in, brother. Okay, so answers to your questions would be yes, the Venezuelans allegedly had all of this Russian military equipment. The Venezuelans allegedly had Russian anti-air, Russian jets, you name it. The fact that the United States was able to so easily neutralize that and gain air superiority and freedom of operation over it, just like Israel was able to basically do over Iran, just goes to show you that this Russian military equipment is no match for the latest in the U.S. military capabilities. So suck it, Russia, basically. Today was a perfect day to do it since the Chinese... That was exactly what I was saying, Jose. That's what this is all about, is Chinese. Latin America now knows China ain't going to help you when America comes after you. Yeah, exactly, Jose. It's like you want to meet with Chinese officials. That's the message that sends to every other one of these little... Yo, that was not Jam. Thank you for the follow, man. Appreciate you following. Appreciate the follow so much. No, that's exactly right. What the message that this sends... The fact that Trump had Maduro arrested while... Let me start over because I just belched. And I'm going to make a clip out of this. Today was an absolutely perfect day to do this, not only because it coincides with the history of taking out Noriega, apparently, which I just learned, but also the fact that Chinese officials were there. What that does is that sends America to all... can't talk. I can't say any. Whatever. I'm not even going to do it. Who is Maduro's wife? Celia Flores. The U.S. said its operation in Venezuela led to the capture of strongman leader Maduro and his wife, who is referred to by the president as the first combatant, who is often referred to by the president as the first combatant. Flores was a top legal advisor to the ruling party for decades, serving as the lead defense attorney for Hugo Chavez, Maduro's predecessor and political mentor in the early 90s. She rose through the party. Why did Hugo Chavez need a defense attorney? In the 90s. She rose through the party ranks as a lawmaker after Chavez took office as president in 99. Flores married Maduro shortly after he became president in 2013 following Chavez's death from cancer. Flores was among a group of senior regime figures sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury in 2018 for allegedly plundering Venezuela's wealth and facilitating the country's military dictatorship. Last month, the U.S. financially blacklisted several members of her extended family for alleged corruption in their business dealings with the government. Those penalized included two of Flores' nephews who were convicted of cocaine trafficking in the U.S. but were granted clemency by the Biden administration in 2022 as part of a prisoner swap between the two countries. Wow. 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 That's nuts, dude.
Electrical facility.
Well, and get a better understanding about the military situation there, because in the immediate hours after this, the question is,
yeah, same. That's what I'm waiting for. I'm just kind of chilling here. It's still like 3 hours, 4 hours away. I may play some games here at some point, but yeah, I can't wait for the Trump presser.
Right now, can you sort of help us better understand the buildup that we have witnessed, with this ultimately appearing to be the punctuation mark of it, but it doesn't conclude the operations there? What have we witnessed taking place? Not
these morons, like
the government trying to persuade the people it is still very much in control.
Yes, and Donald Trump will be hoping for a resumption of stability very quickly in Venezuela. I think the last thing he really wants is to have opened up another war, given how often he talks about having ended 8 wars and the difficulty that he's had trying to bring the war in Ukraine to an end. Just a couple of days ago, he said peace was his New Year resolution. But given that regime change appears to have come about, perhaps this will be the end of the matter for the time being. Certainly Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, is telling members of Congress that he doesn't expect further military intervention. Now, Donald Trump, as I say, will hope that's the case because of the significant geopolitical criticism he's already facing. We've heard it from Russia this morning. In the past, China and Iran have also expressed solidarity with Venezuela. And as we've talked already about this morning, Mark, he faces this domestic issue at home as well, having been re-elected just over a year ago on the basis of putting America first. And the fact that he's focused so heavily on foreign affairs is something we know that has already split his MAGA base here at home in America. And it is midterm election year now, so he will be seeking to bring that base back together as quickly as possible.
Yeah, just a final thought.
Right behind me.
I mean, there was in this recently produced national security strategy talk about, returning focus to the Western Hemisphere, particularly Latin America, and this is a new sort of security strategy by the US, isn't it?
Yes, certainly things have changed dramatically in the first year of President Trump's second term. We've seen, for example, how he appears to be distancing himself from longtime allies in Europe. His Vice President, J.D. Vance, having been very critical of those who would have once been considered to be their closest allies in Europe, focusing instead in other places. And we know how much focus there's been particularly on Russia and the relationship between Donald Trump Trump and Vladimir Putin as he attempts to bring the war in Ukraine to an end. That's something he vowed to do within 24 hours of assuming office, and so far it is a peace that evades him, and he is unable to achieve it as quickly as he had hoped to. So right now, the fact that we're witnessing explosions in Venezuela overnight, low-flying aircraft, the capture of the Venezuelan president, as he puts it, certainly illustrates the fact that we're witnessing a completely different dispensation in terms of US national security strategy.
David, thank you very much for the moment. Just more coming in from Moscow, from the Russian Foreign Ministry. The Foreign Ministry saying Russia is extremely concerned by reports that Venezuela's Maduro and his wife were forcibly removed from the country during today's aggressive actions in the United States. It goes on to say such actions, if they actually took place, constitute an unacceptable violation of the sovereignty of an independent state. The Russian Foreign Ministry goes on, we urge that this situation is clarified immediately. Not quite sure what that means, but the Russians certainly condemning this operation by the Americans. Let's bring in our foreign affairs analyst and author, formerly of this parish, Tim Marshall. Good morning, Tim. And well, first of all, what do you make of all this?
Well, after the initial wow, didn't see it coming this quick. You start thinking it through, and this was always the intention. That was obvious from September. Was attempting to get Maduro out. Now, it's not regime change. The regime consists of the entire Bolivarian revolution, a reference to Simon Bolivar and the revolution 2 centuries ago of independence for Latin American countries. And that's intact. It's just the head of the snake, if you like, has been cut off. And so you have the defense minister, he's still in place. The vice president, she's still in place. The Bolivarian militia, tens of thousands of them, still in place. The collectivos, tens of thousands of them, small political units, thugs, most of them. All of them don't want to go down with the president. There's too much money they would lose. And so the regime is still in place. But what the Americans appear to have done is put 200 Delta Force guys into the center of the capital of Venezuela, snatched the president and his wife, and got them out. Whereas in 1989, from memory, when they took Manuel Ortega, the Panama president, that took 26,000 troops. So it's a remarkable achievement from their perspective, 200 Delta Force. So is that the end of it? No, because we will see how many people come out on the streets and what the regime does. But the Trump will certainly claim a victory. They had $50 million bounty on Maduro's head. Lastly, people saying it's about oil. It is, but not in the way some people think. Venezuelan oil, they have about 17% of the world reserves, which is a large amount, but it's pretty rubbish oil. It's sludge. The Americans are self-sufficient in oil. Where it might be about oil is if they can get the regime to tumble, and at the moment that's not the case, then Cuba's supply of oil would be cut.
Yes, it's interesting. The big question, I mean...
And China. Hydra's in the house. What up, Hydra?
It's a successful operation. There's no doubt about that. But really, it's what happens next.
What explains it?
You know, the outcome. There's so many moving parts. What does the military do? What does the opposition do? What do the people do? It really is about the next, well, the coming hours and days, isn't it, Tim?
Well, you and I both remember many revolutions and many overthrows, and one of them you'll remember was that of Milosevic in Serbia. And one of the key moments, the key things that happened in that, is that when the presidential palace
Eric
and the regime
Smith
was coming under
condemns U.S.
pressure,
barbers. See that
beginning to
headline?
crack.
Yeah, right.
They started making phone calls to the special forces, to the army, to all sorts of people with guns, and a lot of the people with guns just didn't pick up the phone. They said, all right, let's see how this plays out. Very smart move, because they could see which way the wind was blowing. I'm not sure that's the case here. But that, as you point out, is one of the key things. What does the army do? And the defense minister isn't the army. The defense minister is a politician and part of the Bolivarian Revolution. But at the moment, I suspect the tanks will surround the Miraflores Palace, I think the presidential palace is called. I think the vice president will assume emergency powers if they're all having joined up thinking at the moment. And remember that it is clear many parts of the government are involved in the drugs trade. So you've got the government that doesn't want to fall because it will lose its money and will end up getting killed. You've got the Bolivarian militias who are part of this. You've got the collectivos, and then you've got the drug gangs themselves.
This guy's good, man. I like this guy. This guy's really good.
None of these people want to lose power. And so what has the opposition got? Gonzalez, who won the election 2 years ago, I think it's in Spain. Machado, who won the Nobel Peace Prize a few weeks ago. I'm not sure she's in Venezuela. So what have they got? And I think by the end of today, we'll have a much clearer position. Is it mass demonstrations and the army sitting on its hands? Or does the regime click into gear and clamp the situation, allowing Trump to say, hey, victory, we got the top guy.
It's interesting because Trump, of course, has complete control over what the special forces have done.
Yes.
Boom. What the military can do. What he does
Motor City Climber with the follow. Thank you for appreciate the follow, man.
Pose it as a question: how much control, how much influence will Trump have over the kinds of decisions that will be taken inside Venezuela in the coming weeks?
Yeah, it is a very good point and a very good question, and I'm probably limited. Now, a lot hinges on this word that he tweeted out in the middle of the night, probably having been bleary-eyed, woken up to say his plans are going ahead, which is captured. Now, to me, it does look like they're captured, but I don't know how the hell Delta Force would have got to him without a gunfight unless it was arranged, because there's a 50 million bounty on his head, 200 Delta Force, among the top operatives in the world. But where's the presidential bodyguard? So a lot hinges on
good question.
How much this is agreed. That he agrees to be captured, the regime agreed to kick a big fuss about it, but then they go back to normal. That doesn't look like the scenario to me. So if this wasn't agreed,
this guy's so good. This guy's really good.
They've got pretty
Yo, Epic Man with the follow. Thank you, brother. Welcome.
Hands on the triggers inside the country.
Are you serious, Epic Man?
Yeah,
I 100% agree with you, bro.
Want to send forces in at all. There's one other interesting point here, Tim, which
thank you, Motor City Climber. Appreciate that, man. Yeah, sorry, I'm slower to read YouTube chat than Twitch chat, but
absolutely clear about their condemnation of it. You've got Trump trying to woo Putin over Ukraine, trying to push Putin towards some sort of deal over Ukraine. And yet now we have this. We have Venezuela supported by Russia. You've got the foreign minister issuing these statements, concerned by reports, forcibly removed, aggressive actions by the United States. Where does this leave the whole Trump Putin, Ukraine thing?
In the same place as it was, I would say. Okay, you've made 2 points there. One is about American domestic opinion. I agree absolutely with you that he was elected on ending the endless wars, the forever wars, on making America great again and concentrating. But 200 Delta Force guys, no casualties. There'll be a film about it.
Yeah, that's not a war.
I don't think even the MAGA base is going to get too upset about that. But you're right. An invasion like Panama in '89? No way. On the second point about Russia, it was priced in. The Russians can hardly say, "Oh, okay, we don't care." I mean, all Americans.
Sorry, usually I talk more and read stuff, but I want to pay attention to this guy because he's only on right now and he seems to be really good.
Controversial and perhaps depressing point, I think, and more important point, is that although you're absolutely right to ask about international law and about reaction and all the rest of it, that's the previous decade. This is a new time. This is a new time where international law is being relegated year after year after year, and the UN.
Yes, I agree with that. The UN means nothing. International law means nothing. Yeah, I 100% agree. Nobody gives a crap about what China and Russia think on the UN Security Council.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Time. Tim, just stay with us, because there's all sorts of reaction, and I'm interested to know what you're going to say off the back of this, because all sorts of reaction from the EU saying monitoring situations and caring for their nationals there, trying to work out whether they need to evacuate them and so forth. But domestically, Reform UK's leader, Nigel Farage, has just tweeted this: the American actions in Venezuela overnight are unorthodox and contrary to international law. But if they make China and Russia think twice, it may be a good thing. I hope the Venezuelan people can now turn a new leaf without Maduro. That's
You know what I learned, Bahantami? You know what I honestly learned in law school, Bahantami? I learned in law school that one view of international law is that there is no such thing, it doesn't exist. There is no such thing. And that's always made the most sense to me. So there is no such thing as international law. That's your answer to, there is no body that creates. Other people would say, oh, it is. It's whatever the UN says. No, it's not, dude. The UN is an illegitimate organization. It doesn't matter what they say.
Tim, and this really follows on from what you were saying, that there is this kind of, flouting of international law. We've seen it in Ukraine. We've seen it again now, although, it remains to be seen what happens. And the interesting thing is that many countries don't seem quite sure how to react to this.
No, they don't.
Good point. Well said, Hydra. Well said, Hydra.
New times. The first thing you said was about the EU, and again, because we're in the times we're in, I'm reminded of Stalin's question about Pope's condemnation of something. How many divisions has the Pope got? How many divisions have the EU got? None. And so I'm not saying it's irrelevant, these reactions, because it's part of discourse and how societies.
Yeah, see, this guy's so good, dude. How many divisions does the EU have? None.
So it's not irrelevant in that sense, but it's irrelevant in what actually happens on the ground. On Mr. Farage's point, well, by his argument, if the President Xi of China puts forward a scenario that the president of Taiwan is illegal and has done something wrong, therefore, when the Chinese special forces fly into Taiwan and seize the president, it's the same as this, which is why these are dangerous times when you feel you can just do that. Oh, by the way, I just reminded about where the hell Maduro is. I was looking at a map. It's about 30 minutes flight time to the coast, helicopter, and I looked at where the US aircraft carrier is. It's only about another 40 miles away, so he may well be there. Sorry, diversion. And lastly, on what the Liberal Democrat leader said, yes, he's right, and it's part of the debate. It's irrelevant to what happens today.
Yeah, and just very quickly, I mean, what's your instinct? Where do you think this is? Well, it's a very difficult question. I mean, but where do you think it is heading?
For trouble, but I suspect this is not yet regime change.
Tim Marshall,
Wow.
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Well, the overnight.
Wow, so that's an interesting takeaway. If there's not actually regime change, then what is going to happen? You get Maduro out, and okay, maybe you still have the same regime, but maybe the regime agrees to change internally, reform. But the problem is that never happens. That never works. We've never seen that successfully happen. So I really hope that's not the plan.
Made a statement surrounded by armed men, parts of the military, he said, parts of the police, and he's been trying to reassure the Venezuelan population. He said parts of the police, and he's been trying to reassure the Venezuelan population.
Why is NBC News playing?
Do not give in to despair. Do not make things easier for the invading enemy, the terrorist enemy that cowardly attacked us. Do not make things easier for them. This is not the first struggle. It is not the first battle that some have waged against this people, believing that they will defeat us.
So this is interesting. Clearly, that is an image designed to...
Oh, interesting. NBC and Sky News are showing the same guy.
Of where Chavez's remains are, and that's the Cuartel de la Montaña, so the La Montaña barracks that's just surrounded by a sort of poor area, poor neighborhood in central Caracas. So you could see how these areas are also civilian areas.
I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Haven't had any information yet about civilian casualties, and I think the people I've been talking to in Caracas, they've also not been referring to civilian casualties so far.
Really? So what have they been saying to you, the people you've been talking to?
Well, so far, there's this calm in Caracas. So you had towards this around 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, explosions, initial shock, but now there's been this sort of quiet in Caracas, and this information coming from other parts of the country of other attacks, but it seems to be much quieter now, although you can imagine that it's very eerie at the moment.
I just wanted to hold you there for a moment, Dr. Ulloa, if I can, because we've had some news in the last few minutes, and that is that we've heard from the Russian Foreign Ministry. I want to bring you these lines and bring Dr. Ulloa back, if I can. We are extremely alarmed by reports that Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife were forcibly removed from the country in the course of today's US aggressive action. We call for the immediate clarification of the situation. Actions of this kind, if they did indeed occur, constitute an unacceptable infringement on the sovereignty of an independent state, respect for which constitutes a key principle of international law. And in a statement earlier, the ministry also condemned the US armed aggression. I mean, if I can bring you back, Dr. Ulloa, clearly it's obvious what the Russians are saying and the view from Russia. But it's an interesting point, isn't it? I mean, in terms of Venezuela, whatever you might think about the regime, whatever you might think about those elections in 2024, it is, a sovereign independent state.
I think this is a very important point. Precisely the two sides that you said, regardless of the criticism that you might have towards the regime. And I would like just to open up this and come out of Venezuela, since we've already done with your statement from Russia. But a lot of the countries in the region are going to be looking at this and being quite concerned with the level of US assertiveness in the region. And this is not just South America, but perhaps even more in the Caribbean, because Venezuela has obviously the biggest proven oil reserves in the world. Next to it, there is another massive one, which is the ones that are in the Essequibo region, which is a contested region. It's part of Guyana, but it's contested it's claimed by Venezuela as well. It's a country that has lots of minerals, sitting on trillions and trillions of resources in minerals. And the region is looking at this and saying, well, now the United States has decided to abandon any shame, really, and just going and grabbing that stuff. Because Trump announced already in 2003, Trump was talking about Venezuela nearly being on its knees and nearly collapsing during his first term, but he couldn't finish the job because obviously he lost the election, and now he's trying to finish that job. And this is the kind of, and there wasn't any pretext about drug trade of that sort. But the region is divided because some people will clearly, we had, for example, Milei in Argentina sided and saying that freedom is advancing in Venezuela. So the region is also divided in terms of its alignment with this new American assertiveness in the region. But I think it's also an assertiveness in the world. It's just that Latin America is, the US backyard, and it's the lab where it's trying these new strategies, if you will.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because you'll get the Argentinians, the El Salvadorians and Ecuadorians potentially on one side, and on the other side, you already have a lot of criticism from the Colombians. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of disquiet in Brazil and Mexico as well. And what you were saying there about the reaction from Latin America is interesting, because if you put aside all of those countries and what they believe, the ultimate kind of feeling they're going to be left with is that America now believes that it has a vested interest in controlling parts of Latin America.
It has, and it has created this very thin sort of legality, which is this drug trade conversation, which obviously, if you look at Trump pardoning another president who was convicted by drug trafficking, is really, we're just talking about a thin veil of legality that enables the United States to justify these attacks. But really, we're in the realm of politics here, not even talking about legality. If we see, next a government from whoever is aligned with the United States in Venezuela, it could be Edmundo Gonzalez, but it could also be Maria Corina Machado. So I think that the important thing here is the United States wants and will do it. And Trump is not going to fall short. And I think what Trump has done by removing Maduro so swiftly and so boldly is that the United States has an incredible capacity to carry out that kind of mission.
Okay. Dr. Pablo Ulloa, it's been so good to talk to you, expert in Venezuelan military scenario planning at UCL. Thank you for taking the time to come on the programme and talk to us today.
Thank you very much.
Well, we've been hearing from Venezuela's Interior Minister, Diosdado Cabello. He has called for calm and has urged Venezuelans to trust leadership. Have a listen.
After evaluating the damages caused by the criminal and terrorist attack against our people, our patriotic ground, our electrical facilities, our revolution, and even those who aren't related to the revolution, it is an attack on Venezuela. From this beautiful people, I ask to stay calm, trust in our leadership, trust in our military, our political leaders, during the situation we are facing. Calm. No one should fall into despair. No one should make things easier for our invading enemy. After these attacks, we will win in the end. May the country win.
Well, let's now hear from our correspondent in Washington, Will Grant. He, of course, has been monitoring events from this fast-moving story and gave us this update.
Huge news for Venezuelans, for Latin America.
Oh my gosh, sorry about that, guys. Woo-wee. I did not realize that was going to take that long. Oh, check it out, boys. Wall Street Journal's got another update. Wall Street Journal's got another update. Did I miss anything in chat? Yo, 1927 Ethos in the house. What up, 1927? Welcome. Thanks for being here. Sir, I'm Asian. Can I ask you a question? What does conservative mean in U.S. politics? Like that, you tag that along with Christian. Are you a political streamer? Yes, I am a political streamer. Conservative, traditional American conservatism is defined by 3 different sort of policy beliefs. One would be traditional moral and social values and policies, including traditional marriage, focus on importance of family, having children, marriage, things like that. Number 2 would be a small government fiscal and financial approach, including low taxes, low regulation, very small government, small federal government. And then 3rd would be a traditionally strong American foreign policy of the aggressive use of all U.S. power to promote U.S. interests around the world. Those are the 3 things that I would say define traditional American conservative. Boom. Boss Nerd with the follow. Thank you, Boss Nerd. Appreciate the follow. Crazy Noodles in the house. What up, Crazy? Good morning, lecture. Popping in to say hello. I will be jumping back in once I get home from work. Thank you, man. Appreciate that, Crazy Noodles. Good to see you. These people need to realize that what just happened is very small scale. If it was an attack, it would have been much larger. Yeah, for sure. That's a good point. No, Rubio tweet explains reason for action. Oh, really? Interior Minister appears on TV in bulletproof vest. Venezuelan Interior Minister, long seen as the enforcer for strongman Maduro, claimed the government has everything under control as he appeared on state TV surrounded by armed security forces in black uniforms. They think they're going to defeat us, Cabello said from a street in Caracas wearing a bulletproof vest. A bulletproof vest. It's not the first time we've learned how to survive all of these circumstances. Cabello called on military and police officers to patrol Caracas to maintain order. Oh, Senator says Maduro arrested on criminal charges. Trump had authority. Yeah, they finally updated this. Good. Maduro's been arrested to face criminal charges in the U.S. and the military actions in Venezuela fall under Trump's constitutional authority, Republican Senator Mike Lee said. Lee of Utah had earlier questioned whether Trump had authority. I don't see anything on his secretary. He must be not. This is his personal one. Secretary Rubio. Did he post something on here that's new? No. Nothing new. Let's see what's going on with the...
His word, the Venezuelan president, and flown him and his wife out of the country. At the same time, we're hearing from U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio that President Maduro of Venezuela has been indicted for pushing drugs into the United States, he says, and that he will face justice on U.S. soil. At the same time, we're also hearing from the Venezuelan government that they don't know where Maduro is, that they're seeking proof of life. They've declared a national emergency. We've heard from the vice president, from the defense minister, from the interior minister. So if the ultimate goal was regime change, well, the leader appears to have been removed either of his own free will or by US forces. But certainly the regime very much remains still in place in Venezuela.
Okay, David, thank you very much indeed. Let's just take you through what we know about the latest movements of the Venezuelan leader. Maduro was last seen on government TV here on New Year's Eve. He's in the country's capital. In an interview with a Spanish journalist, he was talking, and it was the same day that the US announced strikes against 5 more alleged drug smuggling boats, and Maduro said he was open to talks with the US about tackling drug trafficking.
The US government knows, because we've told many of their spokespeople, that if they want to seriously discuss an agreement to combat drug trafficking, we're ready. If they want oil, Venezuela is ready for US investment, like with Chevron.
Yes, it's very libertarian to want small government. Yep.
And however they want it.
Well, a short time ago, I spoke to the independent journalist based in Venezuela, Paul Dobson.
Boss, they're saying that because Marco Rubio's from Cuba, and most Cubans hate communists, and Cubans hate communists and Marxists because Cubans know what happens when you get hit by a communist and Marxist because Cubans lived under it. And so Marco Rubio, as somebody from Cuba who absolutely hates communists and Marxists because Cubans hate communists and Marxists because they know what happens with them. They're saying, oh, that's Marco Rubio just wants to take out Maduro because he's a communist. Maduro's a communist. It's like, yeah, okay. I mean, that sort of makes sense, right?
No more strikes. They have achieved what they wanted. Apparently, Marco Rubio said this. But the future in the next few hours and days in Venezuela is very uncertain.
We've had this statement from the defense ministry deploying the armed forces, military vehicles around the palace. The defense minister calling it a barbaric act of aggression, which suggests that
who's this guy?
The military didn't get advanced knowledge of this because there is this suggestion that it was some sort of negotiated exit.
This is one of the major questions right now being discussed, because the operation seemed very clean, it was very quick, very efficient. we saw US military helicopters flying over Caracas. Just so your viewers have some idea, Caracas is by land about 45 minutes from the Venezuelan coast. So there's a certain fly time there to get to downtown Caracas. And there seemed to be effectively no military response from the anti-aircraft missile batteries on the Venezuelan coast or within Caracas itself. So questions are already being asked about the military response to the bombings, or the lack of rather, and what this could potentially mean in terms of was this a negotiated exit? Was this a forced exit? Did Maduro himself hand himself over? Or really exactly what happened in the early hours of today?
So at the moment, Paul, you have no idea, the Venezuelan people have no idea who is actually running Venezuela, or do we assume that it is still the vice president or the armed forces?
Essentially here I see three potential scenarios. According to the Venezuelan constitution, if the president is inhabilitated, it is the vice president who assumes power. This is what the government will be arguing, and Delcy Rodriguez, the current vice president, will surely be pushing for. However, there is also a scenario whereby the military will now assume rule of the country, given the military operations underway, and this is also a plausible scenario. But the Venezuelan opposition will be arguing, in fact, that the constitutional thread was broken in 2024 with the elections, to which we still, at this point, don't know precisely who won. The results were never published. And so the opposition will argue that the vice president should not assume power because effectively her and her government and Nicolas Maduro's government were never elected into power. So these are the scenarios, and the battle, the struggle for power between the different sectors will be fierce and will be immediate.
And is the key, Paul, do you think, where the loyalties of the senior generals actually lie now, given that Maduro is no longer in the country?
This, without a doubt, will be very important. And this is essentially a black box. It's very difficult, almost impossible to gauge the level of support of the top-ranking generals. Publicly, of course, they have come out and condemned the bombing. In the previous weeks, they have come out and supported the government. But publicly, we would expect them to do this. Behind closed doors, there may be a very different scenario, or maybe we're just seeing ghosts and mirrors here where, in fact, there are none. So this, I think only time will tell, but they will definitely be key actors, especially if the Venezuelan opposition, led by Maria Corina Machado, is thinking about coming and trying to take power.
Paul Dobson speaking to me from Venezuela a little earlier. Let's bring in our chief correspondent, Stuart Ram.
What's really crazy about this situation right now is, like, nobody knows what's going on. Nobody has any idea if this was, what kind of an operation this was, whether this was agreed to and coordinated. Everybody seems to be kind of saying this had to have been coordinated.
It's a successful operation, a job well done.
Yeah, I mean, when we first saw the pictures of those helicopters, which the general expectation is that they were involved in exactly how this effort to get to Maduro was actually carried out. Now, the opposition have been talking to us, very senior members of the opposition, and they're saying that, in their opinion, this was actually a deal, that there'd been negotiations, which we know has been confirmed by President Trump, between Trump and Maduro. It is said, when I was in Caracas, the rumor mill was that Maduro asked for a number of his top military commanders, including his wife, and a lot of money to leave. That was his conditions, and he was told, we are led to believe the answer is no, it's you and your wife, and you will have a safe exit for the country. But now we're hearing that the United States is considering charges. He's already been indicted. Maduro's been indicted for drug trafficking beforehand, and that he will face the law in the United States, which of course they have done with leaders in the past.
Why would Maduro agree to that? Why on earth would Maduro agree to be arrested and go to prison for the rest of his life in the U.S.? Why would Maduro agree to that? It makes no sense.
Now, of course, we don't know what exactly is going to happen, but it's certainly the president has said that he was captured. President Trump has said he was captured, which slightly changes the narrative.
All right, I don't like this guy very much. Let me throw up. Let me work on some clips just for a few minutes here. I've only got a few.
State, when I talk to officials close to him and close to the administration, this has been.
Yeah, Rubio is correct.
This has been.
Rubio is correct. Rubio's so good. Rubio is so good. Rubio's been spot on with everything. And that's the point. Maduro's not the president. He's literally the leader of a cartel gang, cocaine trafficking gang that's taken over control of the government. It's like he didn't win the illegitimate election. Like, he has no legit. North, South, Central America, to become communist, to become dictatorships, to be allies with Russia and China and Iran and North Korea. We can't allow them to become narco states where they're dealing drugs and putting drugs in the United States. We can't allow them to not cooperate with us on immigration controls. This is fantastic move by President Trump here to arrest Maduro. Drug trafficking. Alarm about Cuban and Soviet expansion led the U.S. to intervene in Grenada after the tiny Caribbean island's Marxist Prime Minister Maurice Bishop and other officials were executed following an internal coup in 1983. Between 81 and 90, the U.S. backed Contra rebels in their fight against Nicaragua's Marxist Sandinista government. The war ended after the Sandinistas lost the night. Yo, Tactical Coalog, what's up? Tactical Rip Maduro and Venezuela. Yup. Like, I don't think I'm just gonna go on and say it. Like, I don't think that Maduro agreed to this. It doesn't make sense to me that that this would have been like an agreed operation. Why would Maduro agree to go to prison unless like Maduro's life was unless Maduro was going to get killed? Like, we don't know what the internal situation was like in Venezuela. It's potentially possible that Maduro was in a situation domestically where it's like he could potentially have died. In that situation, maybe he would rather potentially live the rest of his life in prison in the U.S. I don't know. That's crazy, though. Usually had Russian anti-air, Russian jets, you name it. The fact that the United States was able to so easily neutralize that and gain air superiority.
Some of them are exiled. Maria Corina Machado, obviously a really prominent figure now that she won the Nobel Peace Prize, but some of the opposition who hate Nicolas Maduro still are not convinced by some of her arguments, some of her allyship towards people like Donald Trump, for example. So there is still division there too. And I think certainly what we can say by history is that US interventions in the region have never really gone smoothly, particularly.
Yes, I play CSGO. I play CSGO every day. Yes, Taco, yes, I play CSGO every single day, yep. This is how you followed me. First time chatter, welcome. Any new people, don't forget to follow, please. I would appreciate follows and subs on YouTube. Thank you so much, guys. Drug lords and terrorists get executed or released under the... Yeah, right?
The international legality...
Yeah, 17 years in prison, better than dying. Yeah, that's the question, right? That's kind of what I'm wondering.
Which means unarmed civilian peacekeeping, is activated and the operational plan is at the border. Well, let's bring you all those top lines once more, if we can, from what we know so far. So, as I only mentioned earlier, at some point this morning, we heard about a large-scale attack on Venezuela, in particular on Caracas and some of the military installations in and around the city. We then heard on Truth Social from President Trump that the US had struck military targets inside Venezuela. And President Trump also went on to confirm that the Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife had been taken and flown or removed from the country. We later on heard from a senator in the United States who said that he believes that Mr. Maduro and his wife will be taken to the US and put on trial there. Details, of course, are very, very scarce on where he is. And we have had the Venezuelan government asking for proof of life. And we've also had criticism from the Russian government as well. The Russian government has said that the capture of Nicolas Maduro and his wife, the forcible removal of them from the country is alarming. They've also said that the US actions are aggressive. There's been a national state of emergency declared in Venezuela. They have internally denounced the military aggression. We've also, as I mentioned earlier, heard of the fear and the uncertainty from within Caracas as those explosions happened. I only mentioned that Caracas is situated in a valley with mountains around it. So she was told by people who were in Caracas at 2 in the morning when those attacks started that the noise was incredible. What we also know so far now is with the detention of Nicolas Maduro, there is a period of extreme uncertainty in the country. If it's confirmed that he has been detained and he is out of the country, the question now many people are asking is what will happen next in Venezuela. We also are now clearly watching very closely those within the government that President Maduro has left behind. For example, the Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, who we heard from earlier, the Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello, and the Defence Minister as well. We know that all three have appeared either in terms of audio or on television to denounce what's happened and to try and restore some.
Behind to me, Trump's speech is at 9 a.m. Eastern, I believe,
Moffitt, who is an expert
which
in
is 7 a.m. my
law
time, which is like 2 hours from now, I think.
Belfast. It's so good to talk to you, Professor. Thanks so much for joining us. We heard from the Russian Foreign Ministry earlier on today, and they have said this: it's unacceptable infringement, the US actions, on the sovereignty of an independent state, respect for which constitutes a key principle of international law. Does the Russian Foreign Ministry have a point there?
Well, yes, when it's speaking about the United States, it might take its own advice when it came to Ukraine. But yes, this invasion of Venezuela is a clear violation of the UN Charter and international law.
So what does that mean? Explain to us how.
Well, all states are party to the UN Charter, which says that states can't go to war unless it's in self-defense or it's authorized by the UN Security Council. And neither of those circumstances exist when it comes to Venezuela today.
So what are the next steps then? If international law has been contravened, what?
Nothing then. Nothing can happen. That's the point. International law doesn't matter. Is he going to say that?
Well, the US has done this before with Panama and Noriega in the 80s. So, like, Venezuela is not going to invade the United States to free Maduro. They could bring a case to the UN's top court, the International Court of Justice, but that would take years, and it probably won't change the situation for Maduro. I think it's, for allies in the United States, it's deeply concerning because they might implicate them in crimes that may occur in Venezuela, such as war crimes or crimes against humanity. And that this isn't just simply, one day and one attack. This has been building up for a while, and there may be subsequent attacks in the coming days.
So what's your take now on the...
This guy's a joke. I'm not listening to him. Updates from Wall Street Journal. Updates from Wall Street Journal. Russia says U.S. lacks justification for military strike. Kremlin denounced the U.S. actions against Venezuela as unjustified and called for dialogue to prevent further escalation. Venezuela must be guaranteed the right to determine its own future without destructive external interference, particularly of a military nature. That's hilarious, dude. So Russia is now saying, trying to criticize the U.S.
Some local sources. So
they told us that she's right now in Russia. She recorded a message and she has only make a contact by telephone. So there have been high possibility that she left the country in the past day. So right now we are trying to confirm 100% that information, but there is high possibilities that she has left the country also.
Rosalie, look, we really appreciate you coming on from Venezuela, from Caracas. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you again. Have a nice day.
So that's the situation as we know it at the moment in Venezuela. Also, in the last few moments, we have had a reaction from the Prime Minister here, Keir Starmer. Let's have a listen to what he's got to say.
Prime Minister, have you spoken to Donald Trump about what's happened in Venezuela?
No, I haven't, and it's obviously a fast-moving situation, and we need to establish all the facts. What I can say is that the UK was not involved in any way in this operation, and as you'd expect, we're focusing on British nationals in Venezuela and working very closely with our embassy, and so I will want to talk to the President, I will want to talk to allies, but at the moment, I think we need to establish the facts. I think President Trump is doing a press conference later, so hopefully more information will come out then.
What is clear, though, which the White House has said, is that America carried out strikes on Venezuela and captured their leader, Maduro. Some politicians in this country have already condemned that. Do you?
Well, I want to establish the facts first. I want to speak to President Trump. I want to speak to allies. As I say, I can be absolutely clear that we were not involved in that. And as you know, I always say and believe we should all uphold international law. But I think
exactly, Hydra. Yep, exactly right, Hydra.
Let's establish the facts and take it from there.
And just lastly, for people who might have family there, or the small number of Brits in Venezuela, there are some there. It might be a small number, but of course people will be very concerned. What would their advice be?
Yeah, there's about 500 there in Venezuela, and we're working with the embassy to make sure that they are well looked after, safeguarded, and get appropriate advice. So we're working at pace with the embassy on that. It is a small number, but it's an important number. It is about 500, and so that's what we're doing there.
Understood.
Keir Starmer speaking in the last few moments. These are said to be, well, they are live pictures from Caracas, and the government and the military doing its best to maintain that it is in control. It remains to be seen what the opposition do, but it's very interesting what Keir Starmer has been saying. Let's bring in our political correspondent Amanda Acas from Westminster. And well, Amanda, what struck me is that Keir Starmer didn't seem to know that this was taking place. We were not involved. Yeah,
that's pretty
need to get more detail. Need to speak to Donald Trump. Need to establish the facts.
Yes, it was very much a holding position from Sir Keir Starmer, wasn't it? And I think really trying to stress the lack of any UK involvement, or indeed it seems knowledge about what has happened, and really trying to put a bit of distance, I would say, between the UK and the US without actually voicing any kind of criticism of President Trump there. He said he hadn't spoken to Donald Trump about it. He didn't. The UK...
Milei eyes regional Latin American bloc to tackle cancer of socialism. Yeah, Milei. Argentina's president says he is working with up to 10 regional right-wing leaders to form a bloc that will embrace the ideas of freedom and tackle the cancel of socialism. I love Javier Milei. President Milei said he's working in an interview with CNN. Argentina's head of state said around 10 countries were interested. We haven't given it a name yet. There's already a group of 10 countries we're working with. It'll continue to move forward. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Sorry, I'm going to make a couple of clips here.
Decade. This is a new time. This is a new time where international law is being relegated year after year after year, and the UN.
Yes, I agree with that. The UN means nothing. International law means nothing. Yeah, I 100% agree. Nobody gives a crap about what China and Russia think on the UN Security Council.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Time. Tim, just stay with us because there's all sorts of reaction, and I'm interested to know what you're going to say off the back of
the previous decade.
Throw that one up on YouTube. Throw that one up on TikTokers. Throw that one up on Instagrammers. We'll just do three. We'll just do three more here. The one view of international law is that there is no such thing. Is that it doesn't exist. There is no such thing, and that's always made the most sense to me. So there is no such thing as international. For some reason, like the freaking Twitch backend, is like taking forever to upload these freaking clips.
I'm reminded of Stalin's question about Pope's condemnation of something. How many divisions has the Pope got? How many divisions has the EU got? None. And so I'm not saying it's irrelevant, these reactions.
All right. No new updates from Wall Street.
Some of the president's political opponents, among them, we're hearing from one of the top national security officials who served beneath President Obama during his time in office.
That's
what up,
Ben
JPS?
Rhodes,
who says, in simple terms, he says,
exactly,
a regime
crazy.
change war in Latin America based on absurd rationales about drug trafficking, no explanation of goals, and counter to everything Trump promised, campaigning, and we're not even a full year.
Dude, oh my goodness. Every time I click on NBC News, not a single thing about geopolitics, international affairs, not a single thing about that's interesting that's going on or what this means, not a single thing that's aspect that has how this could impact China or the military or any, not all just, hey, what are the Democrats are attacking Trump over this? Democrats are saying Trump sucks. Democrats say, oh my word, who wants to watch this trash?
Planning on taking out more people, or is just Maduro and Celia Flores and that's it? And we need more information from the ground. What happened? If there are any casualties, Venezuelan casualties, U.S. casualties, and I can keep going.
We heard from a journalist based in Venezuela in an interview just a few moments ago saying that Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president.
Yeah, exactly, JPS. It's like, dude, we had indictments out against Maduro. Maduro's a drug trafficker. How could anybody be opposed to going and arresting a drug trafficker on a formal arrest warrant under formal indictments and charges? How could you be opposed to that? Will you support cocaine traffickers?
In Venezuela, as in most third world countries, developing countries, the position of the military is key. So do they remain loyal? Are there splits within the military? And it's not just the military. Telling you more than I probably experienced in the past is it's actually some key divisions. There's a military unit based in Caracas. Are they going to be loyal? There's an armored division and there's an airborne division, and they're key to the loyalty towards the government or not. And where do they stand? Those particular divisions and the generals who command those divisions. There's loads of questions, and you've got to be looking at this. Was there some sort of deal with did the opposition, Edmundo Gonzalez, the guy who was elected president a year and a half ago now, and had the election stolen? Is he on his way to Caracas? Maria Corina Machado, is she on her way to Caracas, the leader of the opposition forces? And I have a question, and that is, to what extent this situation in Iran may have been a catalyst for this. In other words, do you need those ships to be heading towards the Persian Gulf and get them out of the Caribbean?
Yeah, well, that's very interesting because, of course, Donald Trump said, I think it was yesterday, that they were, what was it, locked and loaded and ready to take action if protesters were shot by the Iranian regime. So that is a very interesting point you make. But on Venezuela, you said it's interesting to see if the generals would remain loyal to the government, or to Maduro. But at the moment, there's no one to remain loyal to, I guess, because Maduro is out of the country and is about to be charged, or has been charged, in a Southern District of New York court.
Well, actually there is. I mean, because that's what you were just referring to. I mean, there's a power structure around Maduro. And that's Diosdado Cabello, who is the strong man. He's a minister of something or other. Don't even remember what, but that's not important. It's that he's the guy. He's the strong man within the Maduro government. You've got General Padrino, who's the Minister of Defense. And there's Delcy Rodriguez, who's the vice president, and under the Venezuelan Constitution should be the next in line. When you take out when a dictator, I'm speaking in general, anywhere in the world, is it just the dictator? Is it the dictator and the people around him who've kept him or her in power for so long? And so, what's next is, can you have a transition of these people, and loads of people loyal to Maduro? Are they going to stay? Are they going to stay strong and stay loyal? Or is their loyalty to something that was purchased by Maduro by, getting benefits from the state?
The guy you were just mentioning, Cabello, is the Interior Minister, and could be, as you say, key. I guess also there's the big question about what the opposition do and what people who support the opposition do, and whether they do come out and use this as an opportunity to sort of re-establish themselves on the streets.
Well, they'll certainly try. I mean, something like 80% of the population voted for the opposition in the elections of July 2024. Now that's votes, not avid supporters of the opposition. But the next question is, even for some of those people, if you say the United States is going to invade your country, do you want that? They're going to say no. And actually, there's a poll I saw yesterday that said only 25% of Venezuelans supported a U.S. invasion. So how do you sort this out? I mean, the question whenever you have a unexpected change in government is what comes next. And you and I can sit here and draw out scenarios if this happens, if that happens, if the other happens. So, what comes next? Does the United States have plans? Is the United States Trump administration willing to put serious money into Venezuela? It's been 25 years of Chavismo. First Hugo Chavez, and then his acolyte, Nicolas Maduro, as president of the country. During, every person hired by the government of Venezuela during those 25 years, at least at some level, had to prove loyalty.
There's a good, oh, check this out. Trump says Maduro captured after U.S. airstrikes. Hold on. No. Melee cheers. Look at this. Check it out. Check. Argentina's President Javier Milei Saturday welcomed the shock capture of Venezuelan leader Maduro in Caracas, publicly aligning himself with U.S. President Trump. In a brief post on the X social network, Milei reacted, declaring, "Freedom moves forward, long live freedom, damn it." Trump announced earlier on Saturday the U.S. forces captured Maduro. Wow, Milei doing it right. Milei, what a great president. What a great president Milei is. Argentina sells dollars to curb peso slide as new rules kick in. Argentina's treasury sold dollars Friday, looking to limit the decline of the peso. Argentina's treasury sold dollars Friday. People familiar with the matter said looking to limit the decline of the peso. Traders estimated sales of $150 to $200 million. Treasury didn't immediately respond. The peso weakened 1.4% to $14.75 a dollar Friday. Under the new framework, the peso's trading bans will expand at the same rate as monthly inflation instead of being capped at 1% a month. Crazy, man. Argentina getting it done. Wow, look at this. Nobel Peace Prize winner and opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. We are ready to take over government in Venezuela. That's big news. Breaking, thousands of Venezuelans are waking up and celebrating the news. Why hasn't Corina Machado spoken out yet? Maduro is going to hate CCOT. Matt Gaetz tweeted out. That's hilarious. First images of Maduro. I wonder if this is legit. I don't know if this photo is real or not.
Added weight on Colombia.
Maori, what's up? What's up, Maori? Welcome to the stream. Nothing. I just woke up, Maori. I just woke up this morning and I saw like this crazy news popping. And then I was like, I got to start streaming. I got to stream this. So I've got a couple of live feeds up we're checking out just to kind of monitor, see what's going on. We got the Wall Street Journal live feed going, just kind of monitoring again. Every time there's an update here, I'm popping onto X, checking out the latest on X every couple of minutes here. So that's how we're doing. That's how about you?
And what needs to be done and what should be avoided, and you know it'll keep you guys in the news business very busy for the next months.
Yeah, well, look, it inevitably involves a degree of speculation. But just a final point. Why do you think Donald Trump was so keen to do this? I mean, the easy thing would just be to not do it and to concentrate on the economy in America and concentrate on those things that he pledged he would do in the campaign, his election campaign. Why do you think he's decided that this is a good idea?
Well, the speculation, you know, the rumor mill in Washington is that Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, and Stephen Miller, Deputy White House Chief of Staff, and the guy who's in charge of immigration policy were the people who are the main promoters of this policy. The justification that President Trump has put out
and
on
they're right
social
about
media is just a salad bowl of ingredients. You know, everything from you know that fentanyl is coming from Venezuela, which it is not. Killing hundreds of thousands of American citizens. That Venezuela stole U.S. land and oil, which they have not. That Venezuela has sent its people from mental institutions and prisons to the U.S.
This guy's a Trump hater.
Deploying police forces across the country as well as civilian militia to crack down on any Venezuelans celebrating. They really are kind of holding power at the moment. We've seen Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president, seemingly exercising power. Constitutionally, she is kind of next in command. But interestingly, lots of people are looking at Diosdado Cabello, who is kind of the second in command.
Oh yeah, I just saw this video. I just saw that video, Jose. Yeah, pretty crazy.
Maduro has left, but it will be over the coming days that we'll see who actually takes up that power and if they can do it effectively.
Mimi, thank you for that. Stay there if you can, Mimi. I'm going to come back to you to talk a little bit more in detail about this. But I think if we can now cross live and speak to Venezuelan lawyer Mariano de Alba, who's also an associate fellow at the International Institute for Strategic Studies. It's good to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us on BBC News. Let me ask you, first of all, for your reaction to the events in Venezuela.
Ya, Luisana, ya, esos son bombas, ya.
Vámonos.
Ya, Luisana, ya.
¿Qué es eso?
Esos son bombas.
¿Qué es eso? Ay, Dios mío, ¿qué es eso? Mira, Gabriel, dame el teléfono, papá. Ay, Dios mío. ¿Qué?
Mira cómo se fue la luz allá, ¿ves?
Ya, normal.
Hoy fue.
No, ¿qué hacemos? Vámonos. No.
¿Para dónde nos vamos a ir? ¿Para dónde nos vamos a ir?
Vamos a ir a Maduro. No. Dale volumen.
Esos son bombas.
¿Qué es eso?
That's crazy, man. That's crazy, man.
About that, because I touched on it when I was speaking to our reporter Mimi, but I want.
Oh, that is. Oh, wow, there's explosions happening in the background while the. Oh, my word, that is fantastic. What a great little clip that. Next Vietnam. Dude, it's not going to be the next Vietnam. Oh, you think the mainstream media is going to say that? Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious, man. Pam Bondi, Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Pam Bondi just tweeted, the Attorney General, have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. Nicolas Maduro has been charged with narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices against the U.S. They will soon face the full wrath of American justice on American soil and American courts. On behalf of the entire U.S. Department of Justice, I'd like to thank Trump for having the courage to demand accountability on behalf of the American people, and a huge thank you to our brave military who conducted the incredible and highly successful mission to capture these two alleged international narco traffickers. Tom Cotton, U.S. Senator Tom Cotton has tweeted out in support of it. Let's see.
We're told by.
Let's see if this guy's any better than that last guest who was garbage.
In Russia, which, I mean, well, I don't know what that suggests, but yeah, the point you were making was, carry on.
No, but if that were the case, then that would as it was, reinforce the idea that this has been a negotiated removal of Maduro, and that some of the closest associates have already made their decisions, in which case there's more likely to be a vacuum at the top, if that is the case. And that would be very interesting. I mean, just the way Bashar al-Assad, about this time last year, sort of immediately went to Russia when he couldn't carry on any longer, and the Russians do provide a haven for people in this sort of situation, and they sit in this suburb of Moscow and are not really heard of much again. So that, if that's true, that the former vice president has gone to Russia, then that would indicate that there's been a bigger hole in the middle of the Maduro regime than might have been first thought. So that obviously will add to the uncertainty as to what happens next. But it still comes back to what I think Charles Shapiro was saying, which I very much agree with. In these situations, it all depends on what does the army do. If the army sits on its hands and lets matters take their course on the streets, then that's one set of outcomes. If the army decides to get involved in some way and take sides with some group or faction or parts of the opposition or all of the opposition, then that creates a different set of outcomes. So I think that's probably where we are at the moment. We're waiting to see what the army and the sort of the law enforcement people do over the coming hours, as I guess it's 4 hours behind now, so it's getting on for 9 o'clock in the morning in Venezuela. I mean, I guess we'd know by noon or early afternoon what the mood on the streets is going to be on this first day.
And if the regime stays in power, the military generals under Maduro stay in power, and if there is an opposition, or they try to get on the streets, and there is a chaos, then that presumably would rest with the White House and President Trump, because, I mean, he didn't have to do this.
Yeah, it's what happens. I mean, it happened in...
Oh, we got a Wall Street Journal update. U.S. Attorney General says Maduro wife indicted in New York. Oh, they're just reporting on literally the same exact tweet that I just read out. Wow.
The early steps that you watch militarily, and then there are other real challenges that begin.
Some would say that these steps that we've done up until now, frankly, are the easy steps, right? We have exceptional special operators, exceptional law enforcement operators who understand how to do these types of missions, but they happen at the speed of violence very, very quickly. A lot of planning obviously went into it, but the execution happens very, very quickly. Now comes what in some people's opinions would be the very, very hard part. And we've seen this before. We saw this in Afghanistan beginning in, after 9/11. We saw this in Iraq. When a regime is toppled, when a regime changes suddenly, there's a vacuum. Now there's a little bit of a vacuum. Who's in charge? Who's running the country? We don't know this. Neither does anyone in Venezuela, it would appear, know this. So there are, of course, as in any country, there are opposing forces. There are different forces who want to be in power. Where is the military internally going to fall on this? Where are the other power centers in Venezuela going to fall on this? Where are the other legitimate and somewhat powerful drug cartels who are operating in that country, as we've talked about, as the president has talked about? Those cartels are still functioning. We've struck some of their boats. But that's about it. So these cartels are still there. They're still strong. They're still functioning. The military, we have not, unlike what we did in Afghanistan or what we did in Iraq, we have not, frankly, inflicted any significant damage on the Venezuelan military. So what are they going to do now is certainly a question, I think, on everyone's mind.
Colonel Steve Warren is an NBC News military analyst. Colonel Warren, we appreciate your expertise in helping us better understand the situation that's still evolving on the ground there in Caracas, Venezuela. As again, hopefully we can put up another picture to show our viewers the situation there. It's a new day, a new dawn in many ways, and it's one that begins without the longtime president of that country, the authoritarian leader Nicolas Maduro, who's now been captured and taken out of the country alongside his wife, according to the president, by U.S. forces. I want to get to our chief foreign correspondent again, Richard Engel, who's been watching this news developing right now. Richard, among the questions that the president will surely be...
Blah, blah. Let me throw up a couple more clips. I'm just trying to get clips up as we go here. These should be doing well. I don't know why they're not. Maybe I've done too many, frankly. We'll just do one more. Wow, so that's an interesting takeaway. If there's not actually regime change, then what is going to happen? You get Maduro out, and okay, maybe you still have the same regime, but maybe the regime agrees to change in turn.
Overnight.
Ground, it would have been expected that if some sort of assault on the presidential palace or wherever Maduro was staying, because he didn't stay many nights in any one place, but if there's some assault had taken place, there would have been a fair bit of resistance, and there would have been quite a lot of firing and quite a...
Right, JPS, yeah.
Those people have a real stake in keeping Maduro there if he'd chosen to stay and fight it out in some way. And the fact that it seems to have been a fairly textbook operation would indicate that some sort of deal was done beforehand, and maybe, I'm guessing now totally, but that American special forces might have moved into the area to secure it, to calm everything down, to make sure that there can't be any as it were, mistaken identity or fighting that was not anticipated, and that they've just secured an area and then said to Maduro and Sila Flores, his wife, all right, this is the moment, off you go. And they've taken them out, presumably in helicopters. Where they've taken them, whether they've taken them to the United States, which is interesting. If that's the case, we don't really know. But if that was the issue, then special forces did the thing that they need to do, which is secure an area for then a peaceful transfer of a leader out of the territory. It's the sort of thing they do with friendly leaders all the time. If somebody needs to be rescued from a territory, that's exactly what they do. They move in, secure an area, bring the helicopter in, take the friend out, and then take the friend back to the United States for good treatment if it's a friend of the United States. But
all right, guys, I've streamed for 2 hours. What I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to get off, and I'll probably stream again maybe when Trump speaks, but Trump's not speaking for another 3 hours. So there's a lot of time to wait till Trump speaks. So I'm going to get off, take a break, go eat breakfast, stuff like that. Thanks for being here, guys. Peace.